The city had long forgotten the hangar. Its walls were cracked, roof sagging in places, and windows caked with decades of dust and soot. A faint smell of rust lingered, mixed with the dampness of rain that never seemed to stop. Cale walked cautiously across the courtyard, boots echoing in the emptiness. He had bought the hangar for $1, a bargain whispered about in shadowed corners of the city. To anyone else, it was junk, a forgotten relic of a war that no one remembered clearly. But Cale had a feeling, a quiet pull in his chest that told him there was more than mere decay within these walls. The door to the hangar groaned as he pushed it open, metal scraping against metal. Inside, the air was thick with dust, motes dancing in the slanting light of the broken windows. And there at the center lay the warship. It was larger than any vessel Cale had ever seen, its hull cracked and corroded, sails tattered and rotted, cannons long dulled. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than junk. But the lines of the ship were elegant, deliberate. It had the look of something crafted for power, not war, yet capable of both. Strange carvings lined the sides, faintly glimmering in the dim light. The air around it felt different, heavy in a way that pressed against Cale's chest. Cale's fingers itched to touch the ship. He had a strange instinct that the warship had been waiting for him. Every instinct he had screamed that he should leave, that curiosity could bring danger, but something in him pushed forward. He circled the ship, boots echoing against the hangar floor. The carvings along the hull were intricate, depicting battles he could not recognize. Soldiers with long, curved swords fought against shadowy creatures that seemed to slither across the wood. At the center of the carvings was a figure, a woman winged and armored with eyes that seemed alive. She carried a spear tipped with fire. Cale stopped before the figure, staring. "What is this place?" he whispered. The air shifted. A cold breeze swirled around the hangar, though all doors and windows were closed. Cale felt it brush against his face, carrying with it a whisper that seemed to come from the ship itself. "Cale." The shadows at the far end of the hangar seemed to move. A shape emerged, tall, humanoid, but not entirely human. Its skin shimmered faintly, like moonlight on water, and its eyes glowed with an eerie silver light. Long hair drifted as if underwater. It did not speak again, but the sense of being watched pressed down on Cale like a weight. Cale took a cautious step forward. He started, but the figure lifted a hand, stopping him without words. It did not seem hostile, yet every instinct screamed caution. "You were meant to find this place," the figure finally said. Its voice was melodic, echoing faintly in Cale's mind rather than his ears. "I bought the hangar," Cale said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I didn't know what was inside. And you will not leave easily. Awaken. You awaken it merely by being here. And worth must be earned." From somewhere deep within the ship came a sound, a groan, as if the vessel itself were waking from a long slumber. Lysara stepped to the bow, hand brushing over the carvings. "Long have I waited for one who could claim this. Long have I watched for one who is neither wholly human nor wholly mortal in spirit. The ship remembers, it feels the souls that approach it, and it has felt yours, your desire, your pain, your ambition. You are connected to it in ways you do not yet understand. The ship is no friend. It tests all who dare approach. One wrong move, one selfish thought, and it will consume you." The hum deepened, vibrating through the hangar. Cale's hair stood on end. Something alive stirred within the warship. Shadows shifted along its hull, forming shapes of creatures, of soldiers, of wings and spears carved into wood centuries ago. He blinked, and for a moment he thought he saw movement within the carvings, as if the figures were alive. "Cale," Lysara said, her voice steady but insistent. "You are no longer merely an observer. The ship has chosen to notice you, and once it notices, it does not easily forget." I don't know if I'm ready for this," he admitted, voice small in the cavernous space. "You are never ready," Lysara replied. "No one ever is, but that is irrelevant. The ship has awakened, and so have you. From this moment, nothing will be as it was." The glow from the ship's carvings pulsed brighter, almost in sync with his heartbeat. Lysara extended her hand toward the ship. "The first trial begins at nightfall. Be ready, Cale. If you fail, the ship does not forgive, and neither do the forces it awakens." The hum of the ship echoed in his ears, louder now, as if it were calling his name. Cale took a deep breath, chest tight with both fear and anticipation. He had bought a hangar for $1. He had found a warship that seemed dead. And yet already he felt that his life had changed forever. Outside, the storm raged on, and Cale knew sleep would not come. The warship waited. And whatever else watched from the shadows, Cale could feel its eyes on him still. As night fell, the hum of the ship deepened, growing into a sound that resonated in the bones. The carvings glowed brighter, shadows moving within them, shapes forming and dissolving with eerie life. Cale could not tear his gaze away. Somewhere deep inside, he understood that the journey had only just begun, and that the true danger and the true wonder lay not in the ship itself, but in what guarded it. And somewhere in the dark, Lysira's eyes watched, unblinking. Nightfall fell over the ruined city like a heavy curtain, shrouding the hangar in shadow. The storm outside had calmed to a low drizzle, but the wind still whispered through the broken walls, carrying the scent of wet stone and rust. Inside, Cale stood before the warship, its hull now glowing faintly as if alive. The hum of the vessel had deepened, resonating through the floor beneath his feet. His heart pounded with both awe and fear. He had expected an empty hangar. He had expected a piece of forgotten history. What he did not expect was the presence of Lysira, the being who had revealed herself only at the edges of shadow. Now she stepped from the darkness fully, her movements fluid, almost gliding, yet precise and deliberate. "You are awake," she said, voice calm but edged with authority. "The ship senses your pulse. It listens to your breath. It is aware of your intentions. The ship chooses, and now it has chosen you." And the presence guarding it, Lysira, was more than human. Her voice carried weight, yet there was a subtle warmth, an undercurrent that drew him in despite the danger. "The first step is simple," Lysira said. She moved closer to the ship, her hand hovering over the glowing carvings. "You must step onto the deck, touch the helm, feel the essence of the vessel. Only then will you understand the bond it requires." He reached out, brushing his fingers against the helm. A shiver ran through him as if electricity had passed from the ship into his veins. The carvings flared briefly, shadows moving across them like living things. He gasped. "Do you feel it?" Lysira asked softly, standing at his side. Cale nodded, words failing him. His pulse raced as he felt a connection, subtle but undeniable, with the ancient vessel. It was as if the ship could see into him, knew his fears, his ambitions, his regrets. "It is not a tool," Lysira said. "It is a being, a guardian of what was lost, a sentinel of power. Those who command it without respect are consumed by it. Do you understand?" I think I understand." "Your first trial," Lysira said, voice steady, "is to prove your courage. The ship will challenge you. You must face what you fear, or it will not answer to you. And if it rejects you—" She let the warning hang in the air, unspoken but understood. Cale's stomach tightened. He had faced danger before, skirmishes in ruined cities, storms that threatened to crush his small craft, but this was different. The fear was deeper, sharper. It was the fear of something ancient, alive, and judging him. Suddenly, the air shifted. Shadows moved faster along the deck, forming figures of soldiers and beasts, more solid than mere illusions. Cale's breath caught. The carvings had come to life. Ghostly swords clashed, claws struck, and the wind carried the sounds of battle. Cale stepped back instinctively. Lysira's hand on his shoulder steadied him. "Do not flinch. This is not your enemy. This is the test." He took a deep breath, stepping forward into the midst of the spectral figures. They moved around him, striking, slashing, snarling, but never making contact. The images were vivid, painful, terrifying, but he could not let them break him. He remembered Lysira's words: courage, respect, connection. He centered himself, focusing not on fear but on the rhythm of the ship, on the hum beneath his feet. Slowly, the ghostly figures slowed, circling him without threat. The carvings dimmed slightly, the glow softening. "You are beginning to understand," Lysira said, her voice near his ear, sending an unexpected warmth through him. "The ship responds to your mind, your spirit, your intent. Fear weakens you, respect strengthens you." He could feel the tension between them, an unspoken current of something deeper than command or duty. He did not have time to think about it now. The ship's trial was far from over. As he moved toward the helm, the ship groaned, a sound like metal and wood straining after centuries of silence. A sudden gust of wind ripped across the deck, nearly knocking him off balance. Cale grabbed the railing, heart racing. He realized then that the trial was not just in the illusions. The ship itself tested him, its power unpredictable and alive. Lysira's voice cut through the chaos. "Trust the vessel. Let it guide you. Do not fight it." Slowly, he felt the gusts and tremors become part of a rhythm rather than a threat. His movements aligned with the ship, and the illusions of battle began to dissolve, fading into the glow of the carvings. When he opened his eyes, the deck was calm. The ship hummed gently, its power simmering rather than roaring. Cale's chest heaved with exertion, sweat damp on his brow, but a sense of accomplishment settled over him. "You did well," Lysira said, voice soft but firm. Few can face their fear and remain unbroken. Few can touch the ship and not be consumed by it. Why did the ship choose me? The life he had tried to escape from, the people he had failed. He felt exposed, yet strangely understood. Lysara had not forced him to reveal these things. The ship had sensed them, and so had she. You are different from those who come seeking only power, she continued. You seek understanding, connection. That is rare. That is why you were noticed. The carvings flared once more and shadows moved along the hull. A new figure appeared, taller, darker, radiating menace. Kale's stomach twisted. He had been warned, but the reality of a threat manifesting was different. Lysara's eyes narrowed. You have passed the first trial, she said, voice steady. But this is only the beginning. The ship awakens slowly, and so do those who would seek it. You are not alone in the night. There are those who would claim what you now touch, and they are far less forgiving than the illusions you faced. You must rest, Lysara said, her voice softening. Tomorrow the trials continue. You must be ready. The ship demands endurance, mind, and spirit. As he descended from the deck, the figure of Lysara followed, silent and watchful, her presence both comforting and unsettling. Outside, the storm had returned, lightning flashing across the sky, illuminating the hangar in brief, stark moments. Kale looked back at the ship, its hull glowing faintly, a silent sentinel against the night. He knew the journey ahead would test him in ways he could not yet imagine. And somewhere in the shadows, he sensed that Lysara would be both his guide and his challenge. The night was long, and Kale's thoughts wandered, torn between fear and fascination. The ship had awakened, and so had something within him, a mix of courage, longing, and curiosity. And as the first rays of dawn began to pierce the storm clouds, Kale realized that nothing would ever be the same. He had touched the warship. He had faced its trial. And whatever lay ahead, he could feel its eyes, and Lysara's, watching, waiting, and judging every step. The first light of dawn crept through the cracked windows of the hangar, scattering pale streaks across the wet floor. Kale rose from a restless night, muscles sore from the trial on the ship's deck. The hum of the warship lingered in his bones, a quiet reminder that sleep was no longer a refuge. Lysara stood near the edge of the deck, her silver eyes scanning the hangar as if seeing threats Kale could not. Her presence was constant, silent, yet filled with authority that kept him aware of every movement, every breath. You are awake, she said softly, almost teasing, yet there was no warmth in her tone. The ship senses you more clearly in the light. You must come now. The inner sanctum awaits. He nodded and followed her across the deck, every step echoing against the metal floor. The air smelled faintly of old wood and oil, with a sharp undercurrent of something ancient, almost alive. The inner sanctum was a part of the ship that seemed untouched by time. Wooden doors, reinforced with metal and engraved with more of the ship's mysterious carvings, led into a chamber faintly lit by the glow of the vessel itself. Kale's heart raced as he stepped inside. The hum was louder here, resonating deep in his chest, vibrating through every bone. This is where the ship keeps its memories, Lysara said, standing behind him. Every battle, every soul it has carried, every victory, every loss, it lingers here. Few have entered and returned unchanged. He saw flashes of ships sinking, of cities burning, of battles raging across seas and skies. His chest tightened as if the weight of centuries rested on him. Why show me this? Kale asked, voice low. Why make me see all this pain? The ship is not merely a vessel. It is a guardian of history, and you must respect it before you can wield it. In the center was a figure, winged, armored, carrying a spear tipped with fire. Kale's breath caught. He recognized the figure. It's you, he whispered. From the carvings, it's you, isn't it? And now it watches you as I once was watched. If I am to face this ship, I must understand it. He saw Lysara's past, a kingdom under siege, a desperate battle, her standing alone against impossible odds. He saw love lost, friends fallen, and a city swallowed by darkness. It was a curse, Lysara said softly. Not just on the ship, but on those who served it. The warship was meant to protect, but in its awakening it brought ruin. I was bound to it, bound to watch, to guard, to endure. And I have waited for someone who could face it without fear, without selfish ambition. Before he could speak, a sudden vibration ran through the chamber. The hum of the ship grew louder, more insistent. The carvings on the walls shifted violently, and Kale stumbled back. Shadows twisted, forming a figure taller, darker, more menacing than any he had seen in the visions. Lysara stepped in front of him, her silver eyes blazing. You are not alone, she said. There are those who would claim this ship, those who would awaken its power for destruction rather than preservation. You must be ready. And now it has. Courage alone will not save you. Understanding, respect, and trust, these will guide you. It was tall, clad in dark armor that shimmered with a strange, otherworldly light. Its eyes glowed with malice, and it radiated power that made the air thick and hard to breathe. You, Kale whispered, recognizing the figure from the visions. You survived. Instead, it raised its hand, and the shadows in the chamber swirled around it like living darkness. Kale felt a chill, a fear unlike anything he had known. Lysara stepped forward, her expression hardening. This is the one who seeks the ship's power for war. He survived the ancient conflict, twisted by hatred and dark magic. He will not hesitate to destroy everything in his path. He had faced illusions before, he had felt the ship's pulse, but now the threat was real. He could feel the dark figure's power pressing against him, a living force that sought to dominate the ship and everyone near it. He stepped forward, fists clenched, feeling the hum of the warship beneath his feet. Shadows of the past warriors stirred, not as threats but as guides echoing the rhythm of the ship. Kale's focus sharpened. He remembered Lysara's words, courage, respect, understanding. He centered himself, letting his fear flow through him without consuming him. The dark figure advanced, and the ship responded. Carvings along the walls flared, spectral warriors stepping forward to shield Kale. The hum of the vessel rose into a roar, resonating in the chamber, shaking the floor beneath their feet. Kale felt a strange connection with Lysara. Her presence steadied him, gave him courage. He realized in that moment that they were not just allies, they were bound by something deeper. Trust, understanding, and a quiet tension that neither had spoken aloud, yet both felt. The dark figure struck, and Kale moved with the ship's rhythm, dodging and countering, guided by instinct and the pulsing power beneath him. Shadows clashed, sparks of energy flying as the sanctum trembled. He realized he was not just fighting an enemy, but learning to command a force older than himself. As the battle reached its peak, Lysara's voice cut through the chaos. Focus. The ship listens only to intent. Protect, do not strike, let it guide you. The dark figure retreated into the shadows, vanishing as suddenly as it had appeared. Kale's chest heaved with exertion, sweat slick on his brow. You survived, Lysara said softly, her silver eyes meeting his. And you have learned a lesson few understand. Power without respect is destruction. Courage alone is not enough. You must connect with the ship and with yourself. The ship will awaken further, and with it the challenges will grow. You must be ready. Outside, the city lay quiet beneath a clearing sky, the storm spent but leaving the air heavy with anticipation. Kale knew that this was only the beginning. The ship, Lysara, and the shadows of the past had set the stage for trials he could not yet imagine. And somewhere beyond the hangar walls, other forces stirred, drawn to the awakening of a power long forgotten, waiting for the moment to strike. Kale clenched his fists, feeling the hum of the ship beneath his feet. He was ready, or at least he would have to be. The journey into the ship's past and the path to its full power had only begun. And the challenges, the dangers, and the quiet pull of a bond he did not yet understand awaited him in the darkness ahead. The storm had returned with a fury Kale had never witnessed. Thunder cracked across the sky, and rain lashed against the hangar's broken roof, turning the metal floor slick beneath his boots. The warship trembled under the deluge, its hull glowing brighter with each flash of lightning. Kale stood at the bow, gripping the railing, trying to steady his pulse. Beside him, Lysara watched silently, her silver eyes glimmering in the shifting light. Her presence was both grounding and unnerving. She was calm in the chaos, yet Kale sensed a tension beneath her control, a reminder that even she, guardian of the ship, felt the weight of the storm. The ship is awake, she said softly, her voice cutting through the roar of the wind. It tests all who stand upon it. It is not merely a vessel, it is alive, and it responds to fear, desire, and intent. You must remember this. I don't know if I can control it, he admitted, his voice barely audible over the storm. Her gaze softened slightly. Control is not the goal, connection is. The ship responds to those who understand it. Those who try to dominate it are destroyed. He could feel the energy, wild and untamed, coiling around him like a living serpent. For the first time, he understood the depth of Lysara's warnings. Courage alone was not enough. He needed trust, focus, and understanding. Suddenly, the deck trembled violently. A low, guttural growl rose from the hull, echoing through the hangar. Kale's eyes widened as the ship's carvings flared, shadows of ancient warriors and beasts twisting into motion. The warship was not only alive, it was aware. "They are coming," Lysara said, her tone sharp. "The ones who survived the ancient war have sensed the awakening. They seek the ship's power." He had seen glimpses of their malice before, but now it was real, tangible. Dark shapes emerged from the storm outside the hangar, swirling like smoke before coalescing into figures tall and twisted, radiating hatred. Kale counted 4, each more imposing than the last. "They want to claim it," Lysara continued. "And they will not hesitate to destroy everything, including you." Kale felt the connection deepen, the vessel responding to his resolve. Shadows along the deck twisted into spectral weapons, swords, spears, shields, each aligning with the rhythm of his heartbeat. The ship was ready to fight, but it needed him to guide it. Lysara stepped beside him. "You must lead, not with force, but with intent. The ship responds to your spirit. Focus, Kale. Trust yourself and trust me." The spectral warriors along the deck moved in response to his thoughts, forming a protective formation around him and Lysara. The first dark figure lunged. Kale reacted instinctively, guiding a spectral blade to intercept. The figure staggered back, hissing with fury as sparks of energy flew across the deck. Kale felt the thrill of command, the hum of the ship resonating with his own heartbeat, amplifying his movements. Lysara fought beside him, graceful and deadly, her silver eyes glowing as she guided Kale through the chaos. Every strike, every movement was a dance between them and the ship. The bond between guardian and pilot deepened, a silent understanding forming that transcended words. "You are improving," Lysara said, her voice low but fierce. "The ship feels your intent, but you cannot hesitate. Hesitation invites destruction." The dark figures attacked in unison, their power pressing against him like a physical force. Kale felt the hum of the ship spike, the deck trembling beneath their feet. Shadows twisted violently, forming walls of defense, spears of light, and shields that reflected the storm outside. Lysara moved beside him, her presence steadying him. "Remember," she said, voice calm despite the chaos. "The ship mirrors your spirit, doubt weakens it, resolve strengthens it." The dark figures faltered, their strikes deflected by the combined force of ship and pilot. A moment of calm descended, brief but enough for Kale to glance at Lysara. Their eyes met, and in that instant a connection sparked, a mixture of admiration, trust, and something unspoken that drew him closer to her. She was more than a guardian, she was a guide, a partner, and perhaps something else he did not yet understand. The storm outside raged on, lightning illuminating the hangar in brief, stark flashes. The dark figures regrouped, their hatred undiminished, their power pressing against the deck. Kale knew this battle was far from over. He reached out to the helm again, feeling the ship pulse beneath his hands. He let his intent flow, guiding the vessel with focus and precision. The spectral warriors responded, forming a wall of defense, their movements synchronized with Kale's heartbeat. The dark figures struck once more, but this time Kale felt the ship fight with him, not for him. Lysara moved beside him, her hand brushing his briefly as she deflected a strike. The touch sent a jolt through him, a mixture of fear, excitement, and something deeper he could not name. Their bond was growing, forged in battle, tension, and shared purpose. The largest dark figure advanced, a towering presence radiating power. Kale's chest tightened, fear threatening to overwhelm him. But he remembered Lysara's words, the lessons of the past, the trials he had faced. Courage alone was not enough. Connection, understanding, and trust were the key. He focused, letting the hum of the ship guide him. The deck shifted beneath his feet, spectral warriors forming a protective circle around him. The dark figure lunged, and Kale moved with intent, guiding the ship's power to counter the attack. Shadows twisted, forming walls of defense and spears of energy that struck with precision. The dark figure staggered, hissing in frustration. Kale felt a surge of exhilaration. He was not merely surviving, he was commanding. The ship responded to him, amplifying his movements, turning fear into strength. Lysara's voice cut through the storm. "Now, Kale, focus your intent, guide the ship." Light flared across the deck, illuminating the storm outside in blinding flashes. The dark figure reeled, staggering backward, then dissolved into shadow, retreating into the storm. Kale's chest heaved, exhaustion and exhilaration mixing in equal measure. The hum of the ship softened, a gentle vibration beneath his feet. He turned to Lysara, breathless. Is it over?" Yet he knew this was only the beginning. The storm outside began to subside, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. The warship's glow dimmed, shadows retreating to their carved forms. Kale's muscles ached, but his mind was alight with possibility. He had tapped into something greater than himself, something alive and ancient, and the bond with Lysara had deepened. He looked at her, noting the subtle shift in her expression, a flicker of something unspoken, a connection that neither of them had yet named. She was fierce, commanding, and terrifying, yet he felt drawn to her in ways he could not articulate. "Tomorrow," Lysara said quietly, breaking the silence, "the trials continue. You must rest, for the ship will demand more than courage alone. It will demand endurance, focus, and the strength to face what you cannot yet see." He stepped down from the deck, muscles sore but spirit alight. The warship hummed softly beneath him, a reminder that the journey was far from over. He glanced back at Lysara, who watched him with a steady gaze, silver eyes reflecting the first light of dawn. Cale realized, with a mix of awe and anticipation, that their destinies were intertwined. The ship had awakened, and with it, a path filled with danger, discovery, and something unspoken, a bond that neither fear nor power could sever. As the hangar grew quiet, the storm clouds breaking to reveal a pale morning sky, Cale felt a surge of determination. He had faced the warship, survived its first full awakening, and begun to understand its power. The trials ahead would test him further, but he would meet them head-on. And somewhere deep within the heart of the ancient vessel, he could feel the promise of something greater, challenges, lessons, and perhaps the fragile beginnings of trust and something deeper with Lysara, the guardian of a warship older than time itself. The war within the ship and within Cale had only begun, and the storm of trials ahead promised to shape them both in ways neither had yet imagined. The hangar was silent now, yet the air was thick with anticipation. The storm had passed, leaving behind the faint scent of wet metal and ozone. The warship rested in the center, its glow softer now, pulsing like a heartbeat. Cale stood on the deck, hands trembling slightly, the memory of the previous night's battle still vivid in his mind. Lysara moved beside him, graceful as ever, her silver eyes reflecting the light from the vessel. The quiet between them was unusual, almost sacred. Neither spoke, yet the tension was electric. Cale could feel it, the pull between them, the shared understanding of the dangers they had faced and the challenges yet to come. "The awakening is not complete," Lysara said softly, breaking the silence. "The ship has tested you and you have passed, but the final trial is ahead. You must confront not only what lies outside, but what lies within yourself." He had faced shadows and illusions, an enemy seeking the ship's power and the haunting weight of the vessel's history. But now Lysara spoke of an internal trial, something far more personal, far more dangerous. What will I face?" he asked, voice low, steadying himself against the hum of the ship beneath his feet. "Your fears," Lysara said simply. "Your regrets, your desire for purpose. The ship will show you what you most wish to hide, what you most wish to confront. Only by facing it can you claim it fully and choose its destiny." Her presence, calm yet intense, grounded him. He drew strength from her without fully understanding why. "Then I'm ready," he said quietly. The warship shuddered beneath his feet, its glow flaring brighter. Shadows rose along the deck, forming shapes familiar and terrifying. Cale's heart pounded as the first figure emerged. A younger version of himself, trembling, uncertain, carrying the weight of mistakes he had made in the past. You are me?" he whispered. The figure did not speak, but the look in its eyes, a mixture of fear, doubt, and longing, spoke volumes. Cale realized he was seeing the part of himself he had long buried, the vulnerabilities he had tried to ignore. Lysara stepped close, her hand brushing his briefly. "Do not shy from it. You must confront who you were and who you are now. Only then can the ship fully awaken through you." The young version of himself seemed to reflect every choice he had wished he could change. His chest tightened, and for a moment he felt himself faltering. But then Lysara's voice broke through the turmoil. "Focus! You are stronger than your fear. You are not the same person you were." He stepped closer to the shadow, and as he did, the figure began to dissolve, merging with the glow of the ship. The air vibrated, alive with power, and Cale felt a rush of energy coursing through him. "Good," Lysara said, her voice filled with rare warmth. "You are beginning to understand. The ship responds to clarity, not fear. Intent, courage, and understanding, these are your guides. You must guide it, not be guided by it." He staggered, breathless, as the warship settled. The air was thick with energy, alive and electric. Cale realized with awe that he had not only faced his past and fear, but had guided the vessel's awakening. He had become part of it, and it part of him. Lysara watched him, her expression softening. "You have done well," she said, "but the final choice remains. The ship's power is immense. Its destiny is not fixed. You must choose. Will you wield it to preserve, to protect, to restore balance, or to dominate, to destroy, to conquer? But the temptation to seize it for his own ends, to remake the world as he wished, lingered like a whisper in the back of his mind. He looked at Lysara. Her eyes reflected trust, expectation, and something deeper, something unspoken that went beyond duty or guardianship. He felt a pull toward her, a desire to honor not only the ship's legacy but the bond they had forged. I choose to protect, he said finally, voice steady despite the storm of thoughts within him. To preserve what the ship has safeguarded for centuries, to honor its purpose. Cale felt a rush of energy, power tempered by responsibility, coursing through him. The dark potential within the ship recoiled, contained by the force of his will and purpose. Lysara stepped closer, her hand brushing his again. The touch was electric, grounding, and something deeper stirred between them. You have chosen wisely, she said softly. The ship answers to those who understand its heart. And now, Cale, you and I are bound by this journey. The hum of the warship softened, a gentle vibration like a heartbeat in the quiet hangar. Shadows retreated, leaving the carvings glowing softly, alive with memory but no longer threatening. The storm outside had passed completely, leaving the morning sun breaking through the clouds. Cale turned to Lysara, words failing him. She smiled faintly, a rare expression that softened the sharpness of her features, and for a moment he saw not a guardian but a companion, a guide, and something more, someone he could trust with his life and perhaps his heart. You have done what few could, Lysara said quietly. The ship has awakened fully through you. Its power is immense but tempered by your intent. Together we can guide it. It was a figure, smaller, fragile-looking, yet carrying an air of purpose. He could not see its face clearly, but instinct told him it was drawn to the ship, to the awakening he had guided. Lysara's eyes narrowed. The awakening has consequences, she said. The ship is noticed now. There are those who will seek it, even from afar. We must be vigilant. The trials were over, yet the journey was not complete. The ship's power, the bond with Lysara, and the legacy of what he had chosen to protect would guide him, but threats would come, as they always did. He stepped closer to Lysara. Whatever comes, he said quietly, we face it together. The air between them was charged with unspoken understanding, a tension that was neither fear nor desire, but both. Finally, she nodded. Together, she said softly. The warship pulsed beneath them, alive and aware, as if acknowledging the choice, the bond, and the journey that had begun. Its glow illuminated the hangar, casting long shadows that whispered of battles past and futures yet to come. Cale felt a surge of resolve. He had faced fear, conquered doubt, and embraced responsibility. He had connected with Lysara, and together they would guide the ship's power to preserve, protect, and restore balance. The sun rose higher, flooding the hangar with light. Cale looked around at the ancient warship, the carvings that told stories of centuries, and Lysara at his side. He realized that while the trials were over, the story was only beginning. And somewhere deep within the heart of the ship, a quiet pulse resonated, a promise that Cale and Lysara's journey, their bond, and the warship's legacy would endure, shaped by courage, trust, and the choices they had made together. The hangar, once forgotten and abandoned, now felt alive, filled with possibility, power, and the quiet stirrings of a destiny that neither time nor shadow could undo. Cale took a deep breath, feeling the hum of the vessel beneath his feet, and for the first time he understood what it truly meant to be part of something greater, alive, aware, and intertwined with a force older than the world itself. The trials had forged him. The bond with Lysara had strengthened. The ship had awakened fully. And as they stood together on the deck, the first true day of their new journey began.